Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into a really fascinating high-stakes controversy. It properly shook the world of decentralized finance, DeFi. We're talking about the Polymarket Zelensky suit bet.
Right.
It kicked off with what seemed like, well, a pretty simple question. Will Zelensky wear a suit before July?
Seems straightforward enough.
Exactly. But with over $160 million in crypto at stake, this market just spiraled. It became a major crisis, really challenging this whole idea of decentralized truth.
Yeah, and our mission today really is to unpack how this quite nuanced definitional debate actually exposed some critical vulnerabilities within these prediction markets.
Those platforms where people bet on future events,
Right.
like a crowdsourced forecast.
Precisely, and what this whole incident means for their future, as potential arbiters of truth or reliable indicators.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the dispute, maybe set the stage. Why was this bet on Zelensky's clothes already so interesting?
Absolutely. So for context, you have President Zelensky, who's famously worn military fatigues pretty much constantly since the 2022 invasion.
Right, I remember that.
And he even said, quite famously, he'd only wear a suit again after this war finishes. So betting on him wearing one before July, that already had people watch, there was real anticipation.
Okay, got it. And the key moment, the flashpoint, was around June 25th. What happened?
That's the day. Zelensky was photographed at a NATO summit dinner, and he was wearing a black jacket, shirt, and trousers.
Ah, so not fatigues.
Not fatigues. And here's the crucial bit. Multiple credible news outlets, we're talking numerous. BBC, the New York Post, they described this outfit as a suit.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and even Polymarket's own affiliated social media accounts called it a suit.
Oh, wow.
In fact, Polymarket initially resolved the market as yes, he wore a suit.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting then. Because despite that initial yes ruling, users who bet no immediately challenged it.
No.
How'd they even do that? What system kicked in?
Right, so they disputed it by posting a bond. It was $750, basically putting up collateral to say, we disagree.
And that triggered something.
It triggered Polymarket's decentralized dispute resolution process, and that system relies on something called universal market access, or UMA.
UMA. Okay, and UMA bills itself as a decentralized truth machine.
Mm-hmm.
So how did his process lead to such a completely different answer, overturning that first decision?
Well, UMA works by having its token holders vote on disputed market outcomes.
So the token holders decide the truth.
In theory, yes. And in this case, the UMA voters indicated, apparently by a seemingly insurmountable margin, that no, Zelensky did not wear a suit.
Wow, so they just overturned Polymarket's initial call.
Completely. And this whole thing, it's not just about a jacket, right?
Yeah.
It really highlights how real-world nuance just crashes headfirst into the very rigid binary logic of these prediction markets. Yes or no?
That's a great point.
There's this menswear expert, Derek Guy, who summed it up well. He said Zelensky's outfit technically meets the technical definition of a suit, but he also said most people would not think of that as a suit, which just shows the huge challenge in trying to cram complex, subjective events into simple yes-no boxes.
That real-world nuance point is key.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned this single bet exposed deeper systemic problems, too, not just definitional ones. What did data from Centaurus show?
Yeah, this is where it gets quite concerning for the decentralization aspect. Centaurus data suggests that a staggering 95% of UMA tokens,
95%.
95%, are controlled by just a small number of whales, these large influential holders.
So they have massive influence over these folks.
Outsized influence, exactly. And this concentration of power, even if it's exercised through delegates they appoint, it just directly contradicts the whole ideal of decentralization.
Right.
It leads to accusations that the system is, quote, nowhere near decentralized and potentially, wide open to manipulation.
Nowhere near decentralized. That's a heavy claim. Does that mean the system's just broken? Or are there checks?
Well,
And how has Polymarket itself handled things like this before? Have they ever stepped in?
Well, that's another layer of complexity. Polymarket's intervention has actually been pretty inconsistent.
Well-
Yes, they have overruled the UMA in the past. There was a bet involving Baron Trump, for example, where they stepped in and refunded bettors.
Okay, so they can overrule the decentralized truth machine.
They can, and they have, but and this is key, they notably did not refund bettors for this Zelensky suit market.
Huh?
Nor did they for a prior $7 million market about a Ukraine mineral deal, which also faced claims of manipulation.
So sometimes they step in, sometimes they don't.
Exactly, and that creates this perception of, well, arbitrary justice, which, as you can imagine, seriously erodes user trust.
I can see that. So connecting this to the bigger picture then,
What?
what are the ripple effects for Polymarket, for the whole prediction market industry?
Well, it was definitely a significant reputational hit for Polymarket,
Ah.
particularly bad timing, as they were apparently right in the middle of this aggressive fundraising round, aiming for like a $1 billion valuation.
Ouch.
Yeah. It fundamentally challenges their whole pitch,
Yeah.
that they're a superior method for predicting outcomes, a reliable arbiter of truth.
So the fallout was significant.
Absolutely. You had outrage, threats of lawsuits, plus it brings more regulatory scrutiny. Remember, Polymarket has faced CFTC fines before, even FBI investigations. This doesn't help.
Yeah.
It feels like a really critical moment for the whole prediction market space. Even UMA's own co-founder admitted they probably need some adjustments to the dispute resolution process.
So what this deep dive really shows us is this intense clash, isn't it, between the dream of decentralized governance and the very practical need for clear, objective, consistent ways to resolve things, especially when millions of dollars are flying around.
Exactly. The industry now really has to grapple with how to build genuine trust and resilience, how to make sure truth isn't just dictated by whoever holds the most tokens or gets lost in these tricky definition debates.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? In a world full of complex, subjective stuff, can a truly decentralized system ever consistently give us an objectively agreed-upon truth without, falling victim to concentrated power or arguments over what a word really means? What do you think?